Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nintendo Select Podcast, a weekly Nintendo Switch retrospective and nostalgia podcast where we talk about our favorite Nintendo Switch memories. Hosted by me, Tucker Hazel.
And me, Charlie Wackles.
This week, we're tackling another year of the life cycle of the Switch, and this time, it's 2019. We'll be looking back at the slate of games that Nintendo released, talk about some hidden gems, and reflect on what the mood was around Nintendo at the time. Joining us to cover 2019 is fellow YouTuber, podcaster, and Switch enthusiast Josie Woah. Josie, I'm very excited to have you on the show because part of the reason we started Nintendo Select was to give people our age a chance to talk about the nostalgia that we have with Switch, because we're all about the same age. We had the Switch in high school, and that's kind of uncommon for people that are talking about this at time. And it's so good to finally have a guest that can share some of the memories that we have. It's like, I'm sure you remember setting it up in the lunchroom and like sharing this with your friends when you were in high school and stuff. And so, it's really nice to have someone to commiserate with, you know?
No, I agree. It's nice to have a podcast that has younger people on it too, you know?
Well, absolutely.
Pretty rare.
One thing that I know about you is that you are on a podcast. I can't remember the name of it on the top of my head. I'm sorry I don't listen to it, I have to admit. But okay. I know that it's almost entirely people that are like 10, 15 years older than you. And so you can relate to podcasts being hosted by older people.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Well I'm happy to be here, though.
Yeah. To break the ice, though, I want to lean in a little bit into the fact that we're all about the same age and ask you a question. Because I was looking at your videos. I've been watching your videos for about half a year now. And one of the things I like that you do is the like no nostalgia retro reviews, taking a look back at older games through the lens of someone who didn't grow up with them. And I'm curious. We'll all talk about this, but Josie, of course, I want you to start as the guest. And also feel free to introduce yourself once I stop rambling. But what would you say your favorite era of gaming is? It can be a generation if you know the numbers, or just like a set of consoles, whatever you want to go with that.
Oh, wow. I feel like that's hard. An era? I mean, like, nostalgia-wise, I'd probably say, like, Wii DS era, because that was, like, when I was a child and playing all those games and having a really good time. But honestly, I'd probably say the Switch generation is my favorite. It's the most I've ever been into gaming. Like, the Wii U was cool, but I was still a kid, so, like, I couldn't buy all the stuff I wanted. But now, you know, when you get older, you make your own money, you can buy what you want, so it's been, like, the console that I'm really into. So probably Switch, honestly, and I sort of like the PlayStation 4. It's okay.
Yeah.
Does its best.
Charlie, you got an answer for this?
Yeah, I'm going to say the exact same thing. I mean, this era has brought so much to the table in terms of just banger after banger after banger. The hardware has largely been pretty damn good, and like indies are a thing now. Like, I mean, sure, last generation
widespread,
they kind of were, but like they're like a thing. Like getting into talking about 2019 and the Switch, for me, I barely played any of the first party games. I was all about the indies this year, and so I for me, just the breadth of different kinds of games for different kinds of situations, different kinds of genres. There's just so much going on now, and so much more diversity, and so much more of like good stuff for everyone in a way that there might not have been in any other generation.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I will echo the similar sentiment, but I will even say that it, to me, edges even farther into the current era that we're living in. I mean, like the last few years have been some of my favorite years for games ever. And I am of the opinion, because I have all the consoles, I love playing games from the biggest to the smallest, that the current era into 2023 and 2024 and hopefully beyond is the era that I find the most intrigue in games. And not only because things are new and it's interesting and I think a little bit more exciting to be like on the cusp of something. It's like, well, nobody knows what Elden Ring is like, and we were there when we played it, or New Horizons, or any of the games we'll talk about today or have talked about in this show. But I think, Charlie, you hit the nail on the head. For me, it is about that variety. And in starting with PS4, Josie, as you mentioned, and into Switch, and then into PS5 and Series X with Game Pass, the amount of games that you can get access to easily and like explore the breadth of the medium and go and jump from playing like a one-person made game like Balatro or Vampire Survivors, and then you jump over and you're playing Halo Infinite, you're playing Stellar Blade, you're playing Tears of the Kingdom. Like, the fact that those can coexist right now is just so satisfying to me. And it does make me, fairly or unfairly, look back at like pre-PS4 360 era and and say like, damn, like there just wasn't as much breadth, and that's like that's no one's fault, but it's just like how things have evolved. I'm like, I see so much more going on now. So we're a little bit of an echo chamber here, but you know what? Sometimes that's satisfying.
The Gen Z echo chamber and gaming podcast. This is the only one.
It's so rare.
The only one.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's probably just us. It's gotta be.
Well, and also with the Switch, like you have things like NSO. So like even if you like those older games, like you can go back and play all of them. Like that's how I've experienced most of them, and it's honestly been a really cool experience because I like you said, I have that thing where I go back and I play games I've never played before with like no nostalgia, and going back and playing them on the Switch is just like it's so accessible. It like brings them to such a new audience, and it's I don't know, Nintendo did something right with it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you quickly about the way that you have started your channel and like leaned into this your personality as a younger person who's interested in games history. I mean, that's something that I also have tried to do for myself as well. But you've been pretty successful at it. I mean, what do you have, like almost like over 10,000 subscribers or close
You've
to
got
it,
like
something
18,000.
Oh,
about.
my bad. I saw the one.
Okay.
But so yeah, you've been pretty successful at that. And I'm sure I'm curious to hear your experiences with. You get quite a few comments from people that are like, "Oh, you're too young to understand this," and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think it's part of it, though. It's just like it's hard to break out of nostalgia too. So like if I'm just crapping on a game that this person absolutely loved, you know, like that they grew up with, like. Like that's not a video for that person, right? And I think it's just like a difference of opinions that I don't take too personally or too. I don't really care, you know. Like if somebody doesn't like a game I really like, it doesn't personally offend me most of the time. But that's just not how the majority of people operate, I think. So I like totally understand, you know, people not liking what I say sometimes. But
yeah,
I think it's just unique, and it makes things not an echo chamber as well. Because on YouTube, like most of the creators, the big ones are, you know, millennials and a little bit older, and so they grew up with all these amazing consoles, which is totally great. But they just kind of echo each other's opinions across the board. You know, you watch one channel, Ocarina of Time is the best game of all time. Another one, Super Metroid is the best game of all time. And it's like all in between there. It's like there's not. And then it's like, oh, modern gaming is garbage now, and retro gaming is where it is. And it's all this kind of stuff, which is totally okay to say and totally okay to feel. But also, like, I think just the fact that I have a differing opinion for most of those things makes it a little bit unique. And then also, like, for other people who are our age, are probably, it's like kind of refreshing, I would assume, you know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I can't say that I've ever consistently watched YouTube videos by people my age until I started making them, which was about 2020, and then you know, following your channel, and then following my friend Bo's channel, he's only 2 days older than me, so like we're really close in age. And hearing like some opinions that reflected my own, really, it's kind of validating in a way. And I don't know if you have any other favorite or preferred channels that are hosted by people around your age. But you're right, like you're saying these things, and I'm like, man, Charlie and I had this exact discussion like 3 months ago.
Literally,
like, I've talked to Abram about this. I've talked to Bo about this, and so it is something that I think is shared. And what I hope the NS podcast and people your channel do is bring our age of voices to that forefront. Be like, well, there are these different opinions, and the taste in gaming is a sliding scale and everything. But we are here to talk about Nintendo Switch, something we are all very passionate about. And Josie, you have made a pretty good name for yourself, not only talking about your opinion as a Gen Z playing older games, but just being passionate about Switch and doing tier list videos and doing like ranking videos and stuff. And those are the exact kind of videos I like to watch. And then so I just like finding your channel, you've got like, you know, 150 videos, like, yes, I just get to go through all that.
Don't watch them past 3 months. They get better, you know?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God. I was going back and watching some of my oldest videos, because we just had our 4-year anniversary of the channel last month. And where I consider the like the first video of our channel where like I say our anniversary is, or like the birthday of the channel, is when Aaron and I uploaded our Last of Us Part 2 review. And so that dates the channel. We had a couple videos before that, but they were like very, very sparse and weird. And we recorded that video on Skype, and I recorded that video with my headset and microphone. It's too close to my mouth, and it's peaking a bunch. The video quality is like 480p, and I'm sitting there listening, I'm like, this is a good review. I like my thoughts, and I'm glad that I did this. But
well, that's what matters, right?
Man,
you get the content right, and the production will fall into place.
Yeah. So, but it's time to talk about Nintendo Switch 2019. We've done our little icebreaker question there at the top, but let's go into 2019 and say, how do you feel about that year of Switch overall? I think that for me, each year of Switch sort of feels like its own beast. Like you look at the slate of games, you remember back to what the cadence was. You look at the way that people were approaching Nintendo at the time and what the hype was for the Switch. And 2019 for me, and I'll hand it off to you, Josie. For me, it kind of feels like where Switch was like settling in. It wasn't as new at the time. The slate of games was kind of picking up a little bit, and it was like a healthy middle ground between 2018 and 2017. How do you feel about 2019 for Switch?
I love 2019. I thought it was a great year for Switch. Like overall in my rankings, I'd probably put it like 3. Like I think there's like 2 years that are maybe a little better, but 2019 was just fun because I feel like it brought a lot of the lesser known games that are still part of bigger franchises, I guess, if that makes sense. So like, things like Link's Awakening came out that year, and we hadn't gotten a home console 2D Zelda since the SNES. So like that was really cool. And Luigi's Mansion 3 came out and stuff like that, like that's connected to these bigger franchises, but sort of more obscure was really cool. Also, Box Boy came out. Box Boy is like one of my favorite things of all time.
Yeah.
So I just felt like there was a lot of variety and some like it had Nintendo leaning into some weirder franchises, which I always think is fun, and changes it up a bit, I guess, from the traditional like 3D Mario and Zelda, which are amazing and I absolutely love. But it's fun to see some variety in there.
Yeah, Charlie, what do you think?
For me, 2019 was very defined by like Josie said, like the weirder stuff. Nintendo's like kind of the B team. Like, all right, we had 2018, we had 2017. We had the Smash Brothers, we have the Zelda, we have the Mario. Let's see what else we got. Let's see what else Nintendo's other teams can get up to.
Yeah.
And I haven't finished Luigi's Mansion 3, banger. Super Mario Maker 2, incredible. Ring Fit Adventure, oh my god, I love Ring Fit Adventure. Cadence of Hyrule, Tetris 99, arguably the best Tetris game. Like, come on, there's just so much stuff in here. And again, like, as far as Nintendo's 2019 goes, it's so interesting to see how like varied these games are. I feel like usually in years where you don't see very many games from Nintendo coming out, there's a very specific like cadence that they're trying to hit, no pun intended. But in this year, it's like even the box checking of having a Mario and a Zelda were like different and strange and kind of out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You guys put it perfectly in the sort of B tier franchises that are what make this year. This is a full year. This is like a complete slate of like 15 Nintendo published games, like a really full calendar. But the only one that is like an A or S tier franchise is Pokemon. And we got our first like new generation Pokemon game. And obviously we're going to be spending a good amount of time talking about that today.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. But that at the end of the year meant that the usual cadence of hitting a major summer release, multiple major releases at the end of the year, gave different games time to shine. And so we'll be talking about Fire Emblem Three Houses today, which is the highest selling Fire Emblem game. We'll be talking about Super Mario Maker 2, which is obviously, as you said, kind of a different approach to 2D Mario. We got our highest selling 2D Zelda game. We got Luigi's Mansion 3, which has sold like 15 million copies. It's like these games that are just like on any other system or on any other year where they were released against the 3D Mario or the Mario Kart or the Smash Brothers, those would be the ones that people forget about. Like, you can even compare, like, launch of GameCube. Okay, it's Luigi's Mansion, this launch game, but, like, 2 weeks later is Melee, and people don't talk as much about Luigi's Mansion as they talk about Melee. And so, seeing Luigi's Mansion 3 sell 10+ million copies and 3 houses and Link's Awakening and Ring Fit Adventure, again, another game that sold like 15 million copies. Like, something I love about Switch is how I feel like it's kind of even the playing field a little bit between Nintendo's series getting like strong attention, great trailers, great marketing, good attention from the mainstream. And I think nowhere is that more apparent than 2019 because, again, Pokemon's like the only major game, traditionally major game in that year. But then we also got two.
Except for, of course, Baba Is You. The most
fair
major
enough.
of all the games.
Yeah, and I also certainly want to talk about the indie games because I think 2019 is a great year for indie games, and Charlie will let you talk about that. But Josie, do you have any specific part of this year that you want to start with? Any game, any topic?
I like Box Boy, and we can talk about Box Boy if you guys want. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Have you guys played that?
I played Box Boy plus Box Scroll, which is the game that you're referencing. Absolutely.
Yes.
I haven't played it, but I know of it, yeah.
So that game was like one of my favorites because I played it all like single player, and then I didn't realize that there was a whole co-op campaign to that that's actually different. And so then I also played through the whole thing co-op, and then after I did that, I unlocked this like other thing where you could play through it as a rectangle instead of a box.
Yeah, cutie.
Which is
Whoa.
which was like super cool because it just like keeps giving you more and more content, and like it's a fairly short game. Like between the two campaigns, it probably took me like 10 hours, like 5 hours each, I would say. But on top of that, plus the rectangle, what's his name again?
Cutie. There's QB, who's the square, and there's
Yeah.
Cutie. QDDY is the tall. He's the tall one, as they refer to him.
Cutie. So like there's that whole separate campaign too, which is like another few hours, and so I just felt like it kept giving me more and more value, and the game is like $10-15.
Yeah.
And it's by the Kirby team, so it was just fun to see them do something different, and bring a franchise back. So yeah, I don't know, I love Box Boy. It's probably one of my favorite games on Switch, honestly.
Hell
Yeah, well, they did
a
pretty good job that year of supporting digital-only games. We also got that year, we got Super Kirby Clash. We got the Stretchers, which is like one of the only Nintendo
Stretchers was
games.
Weird.
I've never played that game. I actually don't even own it.
either, actually, yeah.
I bought it. I haven't played it, but I've watched a lot of stuff on it. It's a weird game.
But also Tetris 99, maybe like the definitive digital-only Switch games.
So
It Ken's
good.
Viral. Like that is
man.
a really good lineup of like smaller games published by Nintendo. And Box Boy plus Box Scroll is an interesting one because all those other ones are like new things, working with a different team, making a Tetris game. These are all sort of new stuff. But Box Boy plus Box Scroll is the fourth Box Boy game. That's crazy that series got that many, and they didn't carry forward any of the other like 3DS, Wii U era digital only games. We didn't get a Pushmo game. We didn't get a Dylan game. We didn't get Rusty's Real Deal Baseball on Nintendo Switch. Like they cut those almost all of them off. But Box Boy continued forward. And Charlie, do you have any experience with any of those digital only games? Obviously,
No,
Cadence of
it was-
Hyrule, Tetris 99.
Tetris 99. I mean, that's might be my top. I mean, nothing is ever going to beat Smash as my most played game on Switch. It's just not possible. But Tetris 99 is probably second most played game on Switch. I
Such a good game.
adore. I'm like such a Tetris sicko. I'm like, they call me Tony Tetris. Like I am all about Tetris, and that game was kind of just the perfect nexus of like timing. It came out at a point in time where I was like kind of broke. I wasn't really like able to buy a lot of games, and so having this thing where it's just $20 a year, infinite Tetris, like you're playing against other people. You get to throw that on when you're hanging out with your friends in your dorm room or whatever, and you just get to like absolutely demolish a bunch of other people at Tetris. It's so fun, and it's so satisfying, and they keep updating it. Like literally like a week ago I got an email from Nintendo and they were like, oh yeah, we're adding like, I don't even remember, it was something really silly. They're adding something to Tetris 99. I'm like, you're still updating this game, you're still
like the
giving it
new
love.
skins and stuff too are crazy.
Yeah. It's awesome. And like even the Tetris Invictus stuff, I mean, I don't think that was 2019, but like the fact that they were like, hey, we have so many people playing this game like a year and a half later that we're going to add a super difficult like ranked mode essentially, just speaks to how awesome that game is, that it was able to retain this really, really passionate, dedicated player base so much, like for so long,
Mm-hmm. Well, then not only did it do that, but then it spun off of all the 99 other games, like Pac-Man 99, Mario 35, now F-Zero 99,
Yeah.
It created a lot.
Yeah, and those games are interesting. And Tetris 99 being the first of them, I think that Tetris 99 is like the first place that I think most people would say like NSO was like an exciting, like worth it thing, rather than it's like, oh, just like a handful of NES games and like I have to pay to play online for Smash now. Like NSO was certainly at the very beginning something people whined about, and I would say that it took even more time than that to make it like a something that people were happy to pay for. But Tetris 99 completely changed that because, like, okay, I'm reluctantly paying whatever dollars a year to play some NES games, but mostly to play online for Smash and Splatoon and stuff. But then it's like, oh, wait, for free, I get Tetris 99? And, like, the Battle Royale genre is what? 2-3 years old, really, in the cultural mindset at that time, and everyone's like, wait, Tetris and a battle royale together? Like, that's such a fresh idea, and obviously it's something that's kind of been ground into the ground by now. But Tetris 99 being the, like, progenitor of that arcade and a battle royale genre mashup, like, super, super unique, and it's still probably the one that works best. Like, Josie, do you play Mario 35 and Pac-Man 99 and those? Like, those don't quite work as well.
Yeah, they're not as good for sure. I like F-Zero 99. I think that's good.
F-Zero 99 is awesome.
Yeah.
But nothing compared to Tetris for sure.
No.
Yeah, and obviously it's the one that's still getting updates and then still played consistently. And two of those games don't exist anymore.
Some pretty good support too.
True.
Oh, yeah. Good point. But here's another thing. What would you say your top 3 2019 games are? I mean, we can kind of use this as a springboard to talk about some other games. But do you have a clear, like, top 3? Like, oh, these are the ones that really stand out in my mind from Nintendo's 2019.
Yeah. I'd probably say, like, Mario Maker 2, Luigi's Mansion 3, and a Link's Awakening. Mm-hmm. Probably those 3, honestly. They just fit into, I guess, like, what I like to play. Like, I love platformers, and Endless Platformer with Mario Maker 2 seemed really cool. I was a little sad that the community, I guess, wasn't as much there as they were for the Wii U one, which is understandable. They had to change a lot, obviously, to make it work on the Switch. But I love that one, and like, even the Nintendo levels that were in Mario Maker 2 were so inventive and cool.
Yeah.
And, like, so fresh, because we were coming off of New Super Mario Bros. Back to back, and so to see, like, this kind of new thing with some just creative ideas at all was really awesome.
Yeah.
The Luigi's Mansion 3, I had a weird story with that, because I ended up, like, beating it, like, 3 years after it initially came out, because I would play, like, a couple levels and beat a boss, like, every 3 months for a while. It was, like, the worst cadence. I don't know what I was doing.
Just for, like, on accident? Like, you're like, oh, I'll get back into this. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because I felt like it was a really easy game to jump in and out of, which is true, but, like, to the extent that I did is false.
No,
like, it was awful. It was a really bad plan. And then I ended up playing the last, like, 4 bosses entirely in co-op.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it was really funny, because I went from basically, like, not having a boyfriend when it first came out to then having a boyfriend for the next couple of years, so then it just, like, happened that way. It was really funny. But yeah, I like that game a lot. And then Link's Awakening was cool because I'd never played that original game, and I was just, like, learning about this huge backlog of retro games kind of at that time that Nintendo had, and it was funny because I was really interested in playing it on Game Boy, and then it came out and I was like, oh, sweet, like, now I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I checked it out, and I thought it was super cool because, honestly, I've always liked top-down 2D Zeldas more than 3D until Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, I mean, I think all of those things just sort of catered to my play style more than the others, and I still liked a lot of the other stuff that came out for sure. But yeah, it was probably my top 3.
Very good, very diverse trilogy of games there. Mm-hmm. Charlie, you got a top 3 there?
Do they have to be published by Nintendo?
No, you can do whatever you want. It's our fucking podcast.
Tetris 99,
we make the rules.
Tetris 99, Slay the Spire, and I think Ape Out.
Oh, very good pick. Yeah, I love Ape Out.
That is one of my favorite games. Like, definitely one of my favorite indies easily. Like, that is a game. Sure. Something with, like, Katamari, where it's actually Katana Zero also came out this year.
Great game.
That's tough. Man, it's so many good indies. But anyways, that's like one of those games, Ape Out, where I just, like, I'll just put it on and show it to my friends. Just, like, you know, people who
I've done the same thing.
Games like that. It's just like, yo, check out this game. It's super short. It's super interesting. Its concept is amazing. You just kind of pick it up and go. And the idea of having that, like, procedural soundtrack influenced by the things that are happening in the game, and it's like this, like, really, really intense, energetic jazz and stuff like that. It's just everything about that game is super up my alley. Tetris 99, I really cannot sing the praises of enough. And then Slay the Spire, People who listen to this podcast regularly are gonna get so fucking tired of me talking about this game. But Slay the Spire is like one of the games that, like, I wouldn't say it's the best game of all time, but it is one of the games that so flawlessly executes on what it sets out to do that it is one of the closest games I've ever played to the perfect video game. I think it's up there with like Super Mario Galaxy 2 as far as like near flawless execution. Every level, like at every stage, I play Slay the Spire probably once a day, every day, and I have for God, I don't even know how long. Like, I really, really like Slay the Spire. I do the daily climb every single day. Almost.
Really? Like, still?
There are periods.
Did you do it this
like,
morning?
Oh yeah, dude, literally, not yet. That's it's usually a before bed thing.
Okay,
but
sure.
it's one of those things, man. I do that unless I'm hooked on Marvel Snap, which thankfully I've deleted from my phone.
Oh my God, Marvel Snap! I was just about to say the only game I've really done that for was Marvel Snap. I did that for a few months back, a couple years ago. That's a great game.
So good.
If that came to Switch, if that came to Switch,
I would be there day one. I would be seated.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Tucker?
But again, that's your list of games. No crossover with Josie's, and I will crossover only once. So we'll have actually 8 games out of our possible 9. The one shared game is Luigi's Mansion 3. I absolutely love that game. And I'll get a little bit more into why I love each of these games as we sort of go through each of the games and like talk about them specifically. Because that's what the meat of this episode is going to be, just like going through the release calendar and the lineup and breaking them down. But Luigi's Mansion 3, Yoshi's Crafted World, which I will make a very good case for when we get there. And then my absolute baby, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Oh, I love this game so much. Oh, it makes me so happy. Like every time I think about it, I see that the purple box art with the Claude's yellow and Edelgard's red. I'm like, oh, hearing that music, dude. All right, I won't even get into it yet. But I think this is a great year, and obviously we each have our own passions, and they're all from different genres and stuff. And so let's sort of break down where this year started for Nintendo, which is actually a game none of us have mentioned yet. And that is New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for Nintendo Switch. Notorious game for introducing Peachette to the world.
Oh, God,
and that is
you're
basically the only thing that the game does differently. Otherwise, it's just a compilation of New Super Mario Bros. U, the launch game for Wii U, and New Super Luigi U, which was like a expansion, but also like its own game. So they just like they like staple those two together, put it with gold box art, put Peachette in there, and then sent it on its merry way. Josie, have you played Mario Deluxe?
I have. I bought it for Black Friday. I think that same year.
That's a great Black Friday game. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like $20. So I was like, heck yeah.
yeah.
I didn't play the one on the Wii U actually for some reason. So I thought it was fine. I mean, I love platformers, so like I had a good time with it, but I would never recommend this to someone. You know, like definitely don't play it unless you like have to play every Mario game out there. Like there's so many better games.
Well,
I had a
interesting
fun time with it though.
Total tangent, but I think the first video of yours I watched was I played and ranked every 2D Mario game. I think I don't know how I found that, but I think it showed up my recommended or something. And that was like late last year or something like that.
Yeah.
Either right before Wonder or right after Wonder. Which
that was right after.
Which makes New Soup DX in retrospect a even funnier game because like it's a different game from Wonder, but like if you're not playing Mario Wonder, like what are you doing? Like go play that one.
Yeah, I wish they would have like done a compilation of all the new Super Mario games and like thrown them onto this thing because that would have been like awesome because they're all basically the same game anyways. So like $60 for 4 skins of the same game. Sign me up. But yeah, I just felt it was a little overpriced as well.
Sure. Charlie, any thoughts on New Soup DX?
I think it's a solid platformer, but like the Switch version, if you missed it on Wii U, sure, go nuts. But like I compared to it is a bone dry like oven baked chicken wing compared to like deep fried sauced up chicken wing that is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I mean that game is just like it annihilates any other 2D Mario that's available on Switch, like aside from Mario 3, I think. But like that game is just there's so little to say about it that I'm struggling to say anything. It's just like
Yeah, I mean, well, the only thing I was able to say really about it at the beginning is like it introduced Peachette, which gameplay wise is not particularly interesting. I mean, Peachette just plays like Peach, and Toadette just plays like Toad. Like there isn't anything particularly interesting. The only thing that is interesting about it is like the concept that the Toadette can turn into Peach. Huh? What's going on there?
Like the internet discourse of like Bowser was hysterical.
Gotta give that to Bowser. Yeah.
That is a part that like for people our age and like who lived through the Switch, like you can imagine 15 years from now trying to explain Bowsette to someone and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, okay, sure that happened, but why was it a big thing? Oh my god, yeah, it's a not very interesting game in my opinion. It's like it's totally fine. I got nothing against it. But
for 5 years, that's crazy.
5 years about that, yeah.
Jesus Christ,
she's been with us for that long.
She's
Thank
been
God.
with us.
We have talked quite a bit about Tetris 99, so even though that was next, I will instead jump straight to my one of my babies. Oh my god, Yoshi's Crafted World. This I think is the underrated gem, maybe of the entire Nintendo Switch. I think this game gets so much crap, and I don't think any of it's deserved. Frankly, this is not a Yoshi's Island again, which good because every other 2D Yoshi game to this point was like, hey, let's just do Yoshi's Island again. It's like, well, what if Yoshi was a little more exploratory? What if there was a little more variety going on in the environments, in the backgrounds and stuff? I think Yoshi's Crafted World is like a fantastic game, like one of my favorite games on the system. I mean, there's so many games I love that this is probably like, you know, my 12th favorite game or something like that. But still, like, I love Yoshi's Crafted World, and like frankly the only criticism of this game I will allow jokingly of course, but is that the music's pretty crappy. Like it's kind of grating and repetitive, but otherwise I think this is one of the best looking games on Switch. It uses Unreal Engine, so it has like really nice high resolution lighting and textures for all the realistic craft effects. And the thing that I love most about this game is the level variety, which is something that I think, let's go back to New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for a second. Something I have an issue with a lot of 2D platformers for is that the levels feel like they kind of run together. And it's like, oh, we're just kind of using the same themes and geometry and things. But Yoshi's Crafted World, any given level you're jumping into in this game is like a new aesthetic. It's got new level gimmicks. There's new like little enemies and stuff. You get the little gotcha like cardboard outfits that Yoshi can put on. It has so much personality. I think this game is massively underrated. And I put like 15 hours into it. I mean, I just think it's fantastic because there's also so many collectibles. Like you got the basically kind of like Celeste, like A sides and B sides, and you can like, you know, hunt through the levels for little hidden guys and like, by A side and B side, I mean the level, you play the level facing one way and then it flips and you can see the other side of it, and it kind of changes the way that you approach collectibles and stuff. Yeah. Any thoughts from either of you on Yoshi's Crafted World, or did I suck all the air out of the room?
I like the game a bit. I mean, I haven't. It's one of the only games I didn't finish because I got a little bored with it. I mean, I might just go back, but I love the crafted aspect of it. I feel like it's very like a nice looking game and things like that. And the mechanic of having it switch side to side like that is really cool.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'm like a Yoshi gameplay person because I don't even necessarily love like Super Mario World 2 that much, which is probably the worst thing I could say, but I just it's not my thing. But I think a lot of the discourse probably stems from the fact that it came after Woolly World, which is like one of the most highly rated, you know, Yoshi games out there, I believe. So that's what I'd assume a lot of the criticism comes from. But
no, it definitely is, because what's interesting is I praise this game for not being another Yoshi's Island, but people love, as you said, it's kind of a hard thing to say. People love Yoshi's Island, and so the fact that they did Yoshi's Island DS, okay, that's just kind of Yoshi's Island again. They used new Yoshi's Island. What's the 3DS one? Yoshi's New Island. That's what it's called. Yoshi's New Island on 3DS, and then Woolly World. All those games fall into a similar gameplay vein, and Josie, actually, I agree with you. I like Yoshi's Island. I don't love it, but it's not the most interesting. But I think what Crafted World adds is variety in gameplay. I mean, there's the foreground and background element because it's like these dioramas, and that changes the way that you're interacting with the levels, and there's more puzzle solving in this one, and there's a lot more collectibles and hidden collectibles. It's kind of got this like I Spy Where's Waldo sort of things. Like, do you see Poochie like poking out behind like a little blade of crafted grass, like throw your egg in the background and like knock it over. And it definitely feels very different, which I think is why people don't like it as much. And you're right, coming after Woolly World, which people adore. But I think this game on its own merits as a collectathon 2D platformer is the way I would sort of describe it, with amazing level variety and a unique aesthetic. I think I would consider good feels magnum opus, especially on Switch, because I don't think Prince of Peach Showtime is nearly as good. But yeah, I highly recommend this game. And if anyone listening to this is like in Josie's spot of like, I kind of liked it, I played a little bit of it, fell off, I implore you to give it a revisit, because I didn't play this when it came out. I played it like 2 or 3 years later, and I found it to be a hidden gem. You can also, this is one of the few Switch games you can get for kind of cheap. You can probably get this for like $25-$30. It's certainly not like full MSRP anymore. But yeah, highly recommend that game. Anything to say about the fourth Nintendo Labo Toy-Con kit, the VR kit? Have you played that?
I wish I had.
Nah.
No.
Because that came out last or next after Yoshi's Crafted World. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about it as well. It's the only one I own, and I built the blaster, and I played it for a little bit, and it made me sick. And then I didn't build on the other ones, and so they're still sitting unbuilt in the box in like the hallway or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's the most Nintendo idea ever. It's like, how can we do VR? Fuck you, build it yourself. IKEA this shit. It didn't really work for me either.
I think it's cool that they tried it, and I'm
definitely.
glad that they've, thrown it out there. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely just for a different audience. I'd say, like, if I was a kid, I'd probably love Labo. Now where I am in my life, I just don't really care about it. But I do like that it predated all of, and then like went into making Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which I think is kind of a banger. So
yeah. We also have Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer spinoff featuring Link and Zelda. Charlie, you ooh a little bit about that. This kind of fits your sensibilities of interesting rhythm game, interesting smaller game, indie game sensibilities. You like Cadence of Hyrule?
So, I actually never finished this game.
Sure.
It kicked my ass. I sucked at it. But I really like it. I mean, the vibes are so cool, and I feel like it's really interesting that, like, outside of Smash, we don't really see Nintendo let its music get played around with very much unless a game is really, really going for something. And so to see Cadence of Hyrule kind of do this like kind of like dancey electro thing for like even the main theme of Zelda, I thought was really cool.
I just caught a spider coming down from my ceiling. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I have it on its thread. It's kind of hanging there. Let's put this guy over here. Hi. Continue.
But no, I think that game is like exceptionally cool. The art is really fun and really cute. I love the way that they made Hyrule look. I think there are so many indie games that use pixel art and sprite based kind of aesthetics in a very, very bad way that just feels like very nostalgia baity and very just like, I don't know, just boring. And Cadence of Hyrule just really makes the sprite based Zelda thing look really good and really cool without pandering to this like this graphic tee nostalgia type shit, where it's just like so hollow and so uninteresting. I really think Cadence of Hyrule just knocked it out of the park from that angle. As someone who's also not really a Zelda guy.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Have you played that one, Josie?
I have, just a little bit. I haven't beaten it either. I think it's great, and I think it's really cool that Nintendo trusted an indie developer with their holy IP that is Zelda. So, like, I'd love to see what they do with an indie team in the future as well. I just feel like it's a really cool proof of concept that turned out very good. So I just like, imagine if they gave the next Mario to like the Celeste team, like
oh my god,
something crazy like that. Like, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But
well, it's interesting. It kind of set an interesting precedent because we were coming off of 1 year earlier Star Fox characters being in Starlink, and then the next year an indie team is doing Zelda, and that someone's like, what's going to happen in 2020? Like, is the Celeste team going to get... And the answer is nothing, and they haven't... I mean, outside of Mario and Rabbids, they haven't done anyone else doing their IP since then. which is unfortunate. And I hope that they do that sort of reach out again, because it is cool. This is, I think, the only game on this list today that I've never played. I have access to it. I didn't buy it myself, but like one of my friends had it, and so I downloaded it. But at the time, I really was not into. Actually, at the time, I don't think I even played a 2D Zelda, but I certainly have since then, and I wasn't into rhythm games, and now I definitely am. I love Vib Ribbon, Parappa the Rapper, Space Channel 5, Friday Night Funkin', Elite Beat Agents. I've gotten really into. I've gotten really into rhythm games, and so I think that if I ever give that a shot, it's something that I'll be a lot more in tune for now. But another game that came out shortly after that Josie, I'd like you to talk to is Mario Maker 2. You sort of shared your general thoughts on that, but Mario Maker 2 is an interesting one for me because I played it, and Josie, I echo your sentiments of the campaign that Nintendo created. Yeah, okay, the structure is pretty bare bones. Like, there's not like an overworld or anything. You kind of got like this little building up the castle or whatever. But the levels are phenomenally distinct and very, very interesting. And I think that game added a lot, especially with the post-launch support of World Maker and a little Zelda skin, and like all the other little updates and stuff. I think people use the two biggest gripes with this game against it, I think, too far. Two biggest gripes being, oh, they removed the amiibo costumes, which, yeah, that's fair. Like, they didn't need to do that, but okay, they did, so whatever.
As someone who used the amiibo costumes a lot in Mario Maker 1, who is that bothered about that? Really? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, well, there's that, and then the other complaint is, oh, I can't use the touchscreen because we don't have a stylus. I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's on Nintendo Switch. What the fuck did you expect? Like,
right.
I think that those being the two biggest complaints that I've heard of this game, I think overlooked the fact that it really addressed a lot of the issues that people had with Mario Maker 1, and adding slopes and adding the 3D world theme and having a full story mode and eventually adding World Maker and stuff. Like, I think this is kind of the perfect sequel. And I think it's a real shame that it didn't get the attention that Mario Maker 1 did for, I think, a couple of superficial reasons. I think this is kind of, I mean, I don't love this game personally, but I think it's kind of a sleeper hit for Switch that I wish people would give kind of a second look.
I totally agree. I'm someone who didn't really play the first one too much, but I always thought it was really cool and fun, and the way that you make levels in that game is obviously superior to 2 just because of the gamepad, but that's not something that you can really even address with the Switch, and they did their best with it. And then also, like, if you do want to make those levels, you can still do that. It's just, and you can still use a touchscreen. It's literally just you have the console in your hand. It's just, so I agree. I think a lot of the criticisms there are a bit unfair. I've had a really good time with it. It's one of the games from 2019 that I've gone back to, I think, the most throughout the years. It's just fun because you can jump in for a second and check out some of the new levels, or some random Twitter person is going to drop this like masterpiece of a world, and it's like this amazing Mario adventure. And it's really fun because it's just, if you like platforming, it is endless platforming. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, they addressed all of the issues, like, and even like in the future, like they brought back the costumes, and they added so much random stuff that really made it feel like a complete package. So I think especially now, like, this is probably one of the sleeper hits of the Switch just because it is so good. And it's very underrated in a lot of ways.
And I think we got one thing of the impact of this game that can't be understated is we got some of the best donkey videos from this game ever. Oh my god. Yeah. The whole bit of I'm not even playing the game. Tell me if I finished the level. My little brother's got the controller. I quote that shit in my head. I love donkeys. The Bowser's Big Bean Burrito. Like, there's just so many memes that came from that game. Specifically from Video Game Donkey.
So I know like, Tucker, you just talked about how people kind of dunk on Mario Maker 2 for very superficial reasons, but honestly, I think I like Mario Maker 2. I think it is, as like a game, better than the first one, but I think it has less personality, which for me is important and so crucial when we're talking about a Nintendo made game, right? Is like, that personality does so much to kind of uplift a game's legacy, quality, staying power, and just general like fun while you're playing it. Like, Mario Maker 1 felt alive in a way that Mario Maker 2 didn't always.
Yeah, you unlock the stuff like this little like character talking to you, and there's like some banter with some of the characters and stuff. So yeah, I recognize that.
Which is my only complaint about this game, but otherwise, banger. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on it because it's one I played, but it has just immediately left my memory. Nintendo published Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 that year, the Black Order.
I saw a bunch of videos about it, and I just always thought this is such a weird thing for Nintendo to publish.
Yeah.
That's my extent of my thoughts on it as well, basically.
I'm friends with a lot of people who are our age, who have older brothers who like played a ton of Marvel Ultimate Alliance with like their older siblings or cousins during the 360 era, and they have a ton of nostalgia for it. And those are the only people I know who played this game. Like my buddy Nick, he plays a lot of video games, but he was more excited for Ultimate Alliance 3 than like a lot of other games. And I played it with him, and I was just like, I get the same enjoyment out of that as I do out of like a Muso game, honestly. Like, which is, it's fun, I guess, but it's not the kind of game I want to be playing. If I'm playing like an action game, I want to be playing like Devil May Cry or a fighting game or Dark Souls or something like that. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I've got no energy for this game. Really, the only reason I got this game is because in 2019 I was getting into reading Marvel comics, and specifically my favorite hero, my favorite character is Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and she was like front and center on like the box art. I'm like, yes, someone cares. Like they put Kamala in a game. And I like the like weirder ones they went for, like Ghost Spider is in the game, or like Elsa Bloodstone, and I like those characters. It's really cool to see them sort of alongside Iron Man and Hulk and Captain America and all that. But I agree, like it's just not a very interesting game mechanically, and I actually think it kind of looks gross. Like I don't really like it. Everything's like shiny.
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of toys.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's not a game I have any reverence for. But it's finally time for me to give my props to Fire Emblem Three Houses, because this is one of my favorite games on Switch. I had never played a SRPG to the point that I played Fire Emblem Three Houses. I never, obviously, because of that, I never played a Fire Emblem game. I had no preconceived notions of what the story would be like or what the structure or gameplay would be like. And Fire Emblem Three Houses, I've now gone back and played a couple of other Fire Emblem games, and I've enjoyed them. But Fire Emblem Three Houses is the exact kind of shit that I like, which is just a chance to get to know a gaggle of characters. You set me up with my Black Eagles, and you set me up with my girl Edelgard, which is, of course, who I picked. And I get to know Caspar, and I get to know Bernadetta, and I get to know Ferdinand von Ayer, and Petra, and all these fucking characters. And I'm sitting there, and I'm giving them fish. I'm going to their bedroom, and I'm like setting up a little thing with them. I'm drinking tea with them out in the garden, and I'm like, guys, this is all I need. Like this game like drilled into my brain. I was up until like 4 a.m. for like 2 weeks playing this game. Just every single possible support conversation and like every possible upgrade I could get. And you notice I haven't mentioned the gameplay, the battles, because I don't give a shit. I frankly, my dear, I couldn't care less, because the effort is fine. I don't particularly care. I like the fact that you get like the camera like shifting down into the battles, and so you can like see all the characters and all their animated glory and all that. But Garreg Monastery, my group of Black Eagles, the story, the way it divides, the way that there are 3 paths, and then they like converge and like take different approaches to one another if you play through multiple. Like I love this game so much. I think the music is fantastic. It looks like hot dookie, and that's totally fair. But I this game is magical. Like it's so special to me. And I have great memories with this game. Any nostalgia for either you for Fire Emblem Three Houses, or I'm alone on this one?
I played it when it first came out as well. I was never a Fire Emblem person before that, and I've realized that I don't like strategy RPGs since then.
Yeah.
So I loved the character thing as well, but I never got through the game because of the fact that I didn't like the battles very much, and I couldn't like having never played a Fire Emblem game and then jumping to that with the non-intuitive battle system screwed me.
Yeah.
So I was like, but I have since gone back and played actually the new one. Oh no, what's that? I literally just escaped my mind.
Engage?
Yeah, Engage.
Yeah.
I played Engage. And and I beat that whole game, and I actually
Oh.
really liked it.
Okay. Cool.
Not because of the characters though, because I ended up sort of understanding the battle system and like starting to like it and like feel like it was more intuitive to get through the game. So I really feel like I've thought this for a while now that I need to go back and play that game and just actually beat it now that I can understand what a strategy RPG is. Because at that time, like, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, never in my life had I played anything. But yeah, I love the whole character thing. Like, I think they need to make the next one almost just like a dating simulator, because that would I'd be so into it.
That is my favorite part of Fire Emblem. I played Fates, Birthright. I played Awakening, and obviously Three Houses. And I play, especially the 3DS games, as basically like you were saying, like dating simulators. Like I get my two characters, I like set them up with each other, I like make sure they're in battle together, so their heart level goes up, and it's just something about that like itches a special scratch in my brain. I mean, I think Three Houses, even though it doesn't have as many romance options, it doesn't have the children mechanic that that Awakening has.
Boo.
I know. Trust me. Is a game that does scratch that itch, because the social element is the most fleshed out that it's ever been, and that certainly is something that they did not continue forward with Engage, which is way less about its characters. But Josie, go back to Three Houses. Settle into your class, settle into the group. Let the time skip happen. Let the characters grow. I think this is one of the best written, from a character perspective, games that Nintendo's ever done.
And the dialogue felt really natural, which I really liked.
And most of it's voice acted too.
Yeah.
Which is really impressive, because there's a lot of dialogue in that game. I adore that game. And what I'm really excited for is the next, because this game was the first one that I think Koei Tecmo led the development of. And then it was Intelligent Systems solely back for Engage. And so my hope, because this game sold way better than Engage did, my hope is that they are currently working with Koei Tecmo to co-develop another game like this, like the direct sequel to Three Houses that I've spent 5 years waiting for, because you will not see me the next time a like more dating simmy, like classically JRPG Fire Emblem game comes out. I will lose my fucking mind.
I need them to do a spin-off that is literally just Fire Emblem characters in a dating sim.
Sure.
I'd love that.
Absolutely.
That'd probably take out all of my issues with all of Fire Emblem. That'd be solved.
Well, because then you would have to play the battles.
Exactly.
That sounds great.
That's literally the worst part of the game, in my opinion.
Now, Josie, I've got a suggestion for you. Though you're more adjusted to SRPGs now. They made this game again with Musou mechanics. It's called Three Hopes. Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. It's the exact same fucking game. It's like basically the same story, the same writing, the characters are all there, the voice actors are all back, but you just get to like mash Y instead of like.
I actually just picked up that game because it was like $15.
It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Yeah. It's basically the exact same game, and except for actually the home base is actually a little bit better. It's the same game, like writing wise and character wise, but you don't have to play fucking SRPG battles. It's great. Yeah. There is my tirade about Three Houses, and I finally got a chance to talk about it on this channel. Let's go through a couple more. Do either of you have anything to say about Astral Chain?
Oh yeah,
Charlie.
Yeah, I think it was really cool to get to see Platinum Games kind of just flex their muscles with a series that wasn't Bayonetta, kind of just like do something completely different. That game has like a really interesting vibe to it. I don't love it. I think it's aged pretty poorly, but I think at the time it looked really good. But just the amount of games that I've seen,
that's another game that's very shiny,
that very like shiny anime cyberpunk kind of thing going on, that feels like toyetic and kind of just like weightless almost. I don't know. I'm not super into it anymore visually, but I do think at the time it hit what it hit the buttons it needed to. But yeah, I think that game is a really creative. Did either of you guys play it?
Tiny bit.
A little bit. I just recently picked it up.
I really love the way that it kind of has the like uses the chain, has you basically working with your like JoJo stand, for lack of a better word. And just like the detective shit is so goofy and so weird, and I don't think I've ever actually finished it. I got to the last boss and then like something happened. I think I probably just ended up playing something else for work or something like that. But like that game is really cool, and it's definitely one of those. I feel like 2019 is absolutely the year of like, aside from like even Fire Emblem, which I do think is like easily the most popular game from this year. 2019 is very much kind of Nintendo's year of like under-discussed gems. And I think Astral Chain is right at home among that lineup.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you know OJ of Player Essence?
I don't know him personally, but I've seen his videos, yeah.
I was going to say you should watch his stuff on Astral Chain. He rages on that. Like, he loves that game. Like, it's his favorite thing of all time. That's all he talks about.
There's always someone. If my thing is
me with Katamari.
Oh, definitely. That's our bit.
Well, even you just talked about Fire Emblem. Like, that's like half of his whole personality. He
hell yeah,
loves those games.
Very cool. I will have to. I don't know him, and I've never talked to him before. But if any fan of Three Houses is I'm a fan of,
we should have him on the podcast. I feel like
sure. If you can reach out to me, he doesn't know who I am, so I feel like that. Okay. I mean, Josie, you actually didn't know who I was till I emailed you.
That's true. Yeah, cold call him.
I did cold call. Yeah. You're actually the first person that I've like cold called for this show. Everyone else I already knew like beforehand. So congratulations, you get the honor.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Next up, Josie, talk about Link's Awakening a little bit, because this is an interesting one in that we're coming hot off the heels 2 years before of the biggest Zelda game of all time, and they're like, hey, let's do the tiniest Zelda game of all time, little toy guy, little funny 2D toy guy. I like Link's Awakening, but I don't have any like massive reverence for it. But I know it's a fan favorite, and it's very, very cool that that game of all games got a remake in the style it did, and to this point, it's the only 2D Zelda game on Switch. One's coming out very soon, obviously, but very, very cool game.
Yeah, I love it for random reasons. I mean, I never had played a real 2D Zelda game at this point, so that was kind of my first like introduction to it, and it made me really like all of the other ones and go back and play all of the past like handheld Zeldas.
Would you say Link's Awakening is Link's Awakening your favorite?
Of 2D, probably. Probably until I play Echoes of Wisdom. Because, I'm sure I'm going to like that game more.
Yeah, me too.
But, I mean, it was just cool because, like you said, we were off the heels of Breath of the Wild, so we had this huge, expansive open world that was, like, the biggest thing we'd ever seen from Nintendo. And so to get this really contained little story that was, like, just this cute little game that wasn't trying to be more than what it was and was just a really nice-looking and just fun little adventure. Like, I really had a good time with it. I think some of the quests are a little bit, like, for one of them, you have to get this Yoshi thing that it, like, drops from the bottom. Like, it drops out of a crane game, and you have to grab it from the crane game and, like, bring it across the world, which is, like, the most unintuitive thing you could ever do. So I don't love some of the design in the game, but I think it's just, like, a consequence of them trying to stay true to the original, which is totally okay. But like as a whole, it's just a really cute, fun little game that doesn't require too much of you, I guess. I love games that are like that. So that's why I like it.
Charlie, have you played this game?
Yeah, I've played probably the first third of it. So much personality, so much charm to it. It's
the Goombas.
Really, yeah. It's just like, I love that they took this direction for this game in terms of the visuals with the remake, and then just generally speaking with the vibe, where it's like this mishmash of like, oh, let's bring in some Twin Peaks, but it can't be like too dark. But let's bring in like having all these different. It's been so long, so I don't have a lot to like specifically pull from. But that game is just so effective at making you care about this world and making you feel invested, and being a hero in that game is more than it feels like in some of the other Zelda games where you're this chosen one, you're this hero of time, this hero of legend or whatever.
Yeah.
In this game, you're just kind of just a dude who washes up on a beach helping people like trade to get the Yoshi doll or whatever, you know. It's really, really cute and charming, and I love when things are cute and also kind of like dark at the same time. It's like when like a little kid says a swear word, you know. It's just like, oh, this is like really funny, and I have to and you can't laugh, but you know it's really funny either way. Sure. I feel like it has a similar vibe to that. So yeah, I think that game's excellent. I really want to go back and finish it.
I think that's probably the first time anyone has ever described a video game with that metaphor. which is great. We're here for first on.
That was
Nintendo
originally
podcast.
that was something that I wanted to put in a review that I wrote for Party Animals, and then I just forgot.
Oh,
I love
So,
Party Animals.
that's a good game.
That game is so funny.
Yeah, goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Again, it's like when you got these cute little guys beating the hell out of each other. It's like when
socking each other off of a
Yeah.
off of a planet.
Yeah.
So good.
Nintendo should grab one of those teams and have them make a, I don't know, like a Pikmin, one of those, like an Animal Crossing little like beat 'em up party game or something. Like
a Pikmin,
Ooh, like a
beat 'em up
Pikmin one would
so
be
fun.
crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
you could just be like a little captain and you could be like slinging around a bunch of Pikmin that are like making chains and like
Or you could like play as the Pikmin.
or you could be like, it could be like that, but it's also a Muso, so like clouds of Pikmin that are like charging at you, and you're like, I don't know, we're just spitballing here, but yeah, Nintendo, hire this guy, hire this man. Next up is Luigi Mansion 3, which we've talked actually quite a bit about on here. I don't really know how much more there is to go into, but again, I think this is really, Charlie, earlier you mentioned that Pokemon was like the big hit of this year. Well, I mean, secretly, Luigi Mansion 3 is the second big hit of this year. Well, and also then the Ring Fit Adventure, which is also up next, is the third big hit of this year.
There are people at the bar that I used to work at who don't play a ton of video games, and they were like, she was like, this regular that I was talking to about video games, she was like, yeah, I don't play a ton of video games, but I picked up this new Luigi's Castle game, and I'm really enjoying it. But like, this game has just such broad appeal because it's so different, but it also is, I think it has a lot more visual polish, but it also has
a great
the Mario
looking game.
universality. It's very like simple and approachable, and it makes a lot more sense, I think, than most video games, just at a very basic level. And
Everyone loves sucking and blowing. We all understand it at a base level.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's so cool that like a game like this, that's very much, again, like kind of the B tier of Nintendo franchises, gets that kind of like love and recognition here on the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's absolutely the best looking Switch game we have, I would say.
I'd say
Like,
it's
that game is
top
gorgeous.
3, yeah, definitely. I'd personally put New Horizons above that. Dog.
I think Prime
Horizons.
1 Remastered might be the best.
That's
actually,
another
but-
great pull.
Real good.
Great
I
pull,
think
but yeah,
Smash Ultimate looks probably.
Oh yeah, Smash looks insane.
we could just have a whole episode about what's the best art styles on Switch. Write that down. It's a great idea. Yeah, Ring Fit Adventure also up next. Very, very interesting. Very, very crazy
I
game.
love that game.
Go into it. Ring Fit Adventure. Here's my copy.
I
Just
think
proving
it's-
I have it and I have played it. Not a lot, but I have played it.
I think they hit the balance, like we had We Fit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That game, you hop on the balance board, it calls you obese. It's like, come on, man. Like, let's relax. Like Ring Fit, it's like an RPG while you work out.
Yeah.
Like they just hit the balance so well. They have power-ups, they have all this stuff that like gamifies it, and the workouts can be like super easy, like if you need them to be, but also if you are already like a really fit person, they can still give you enough reps that it makes you really exhausted. And so like I just loved it. I thought it was a really fun game, and I thought it was so creative, like with how you're moving with it. Plus that
Sure.
the Ring Fit like wheel, that's like a
Ring-Con,
yoga thing already.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool to just like see how they were using that, and then like I just feel like that is the most Nintendo thing they could have ever done.
Totally.
And it was so perfectly executed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's the best tech, I think, on Switch. I mean, Labo's very, very cool, but
Yeah, it takes your heartbeat through the Joy-Con too.
I can't even.
So
I don't even
crazy.
understand. I don't understand how the Joy-Con that can do a lot of stuff, but it's just a fucking Joy-Con. How does it know? It doesn't make it like it's magic. It just doesn't make any sense, but it works so good. And like the gyro is used, the pressure sense, the IR camera. You use both Joy-Con because the fact that they're split and they both have separate like gyro and like capacitors in them. So you've got the one on your leg and you've got the one in Ring-Con. Like it is a whole body, whole Switch experience. And I've played a good amount, and I keep telling myself like I should do Ring Fit like every day or week or whatever, but I don't, just to be honest. But I also, Josie, I think you're right with like the charm of it and the world. That's another great looking game. Like just the color design, and like you have these big open fields with like little deer hopping around, and like bright orange and bright green, like a sunset. I'm like, they art directed the shit out of this. Like,
well, like the main
exercise
bad
game.
guy,
Drago.
Drago, he's
Yeah.
insane. Like that's
He's great,
such a good bad guy design for what?
Yeah.
And he's like, I love that he's like this like toxic gym bro too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you went from, like you said, the Wii Fit balance board calling you obese to like the villain being toxic gym culture in your fitness game. That's so cool.
It's great. Yeah, I love that game. And again, another like weird sleeper hit for Nintendo. I mean, there's no way they expected this game to sell like 18 million copies or whatever it did, and then here we are. I mean, I think it's possible we get a Ring Fit 2 or something in that vein, like
almost
early on in the
inevitable,
Switch 2's life
yeah.
cycle, because it's there.
It sold so well.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a shortage of Ring Fit?
Oh yeah, during COVID.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because everyone was home.
Everybody, yeah.
That was really interesting. But the last game we have to sort of deep dive on is Pokemon Sword and Shield. What an interesting game to talk about. Because there's like so many different rabbit holes you can go down with Pokemon Sword and Shield. But I want to start where this game started. Is the reveal of it, obviously. And that reveal trailer, I think, is fantastic. I mean, I remember them like introducing Scorbunny and Grookey and Sobble, and then like there's these cool like camera pans down over like a wheat field with the Wooloo in it, and like big crowds of people cheering at the gym battles, and like you get the giant Pokeballs and all like Gigantamax and all that stuff, and it's like there was just so much energy going into this game, especially me as someone who was obsessed with Gen 6 and Gen 7. Those are still my favorite Pokemon games. I will put it out there. I think Pokemon Sword is one of the worst mainline Pokemon games. It's still a fun game in its own right. But the energy going into this game and the fact that they had the open area for the first time, and you're riding a bike and the Pokemon are in the open environments, and you can go fight the level 100 Snorlax and like get your ass kicked and stuff. Like there was something so special at the time. It's hard to recapture that looking back, but at the time I was just like wowed by this game every time I saw it, because it's like, this is the home console big, like sweeping camera movements and open fields Pokemon game, with also like the most close to the Pokemon anime aesthetic of any of the games, except for maybe like Let's Go, I guess. But I like Sword and Shield, but that energy, man. Like I sometimes I think back to like those first trailers. I'm like, oh man, I was so excited for this game. You guys have a similar memories with that?
I clocked out of Pokemon, I think, and
Sure.
pretty much like after the DS for some reason. And so I hadn't been into them for a while. I also didn't have a 3DS for a long time, like literally until like 2 years ago.
Sure.
So like I just was
You got
out
a lot
of
of
it
games to play.
I do. I was just out of it for a second, but I remember being really excited, and I thought Scorbunny looked like a homie, so I wanted him, but I wasn't like super over the moon for it, but I did think it was cool that it was finally on a home console. Like I think that was probably my biggest thing, where it was like, wow, this is a thing that has only ever been on handhelds, and now we can finally experience it, and it's going to be this huge, massive thing. It looks beautiful. Some of my expectations were not met, unfortunately, but like, you know, like it was pretty exciting. I think I don't have too much to say about it, to be honest.
That's totally fair. Charlie, have you played Sword and Shield?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I played so much Pokemon when I was younger. Obviously, I think we all did. And the 3DS era of Pokemon was like, I DS and 3DS era, I played so much, but it was also this continual forward motion, right? Even if like, no matter how you feel about like Gen 6, Gen 7, and Gen 5, those games were always building on something that was already set forth, right? Yeah. The GBA games it felt like they led very clearly into the DS and 3DS era games. And the Switch, Sword and Shield is kind of the first Pokemon game on the Switch, almost felt like a step back in a lot of ways, especially as far as like the suite of online stuff and multiplayer stuff goes. Yeah. And like Josie, like you said, I feel like a lot of the promises that were made were not really kept or met. And I think while I do really enjoy this game, I do think that it kind of suffered from the fact that it is, the first console Pokemon game. Yeah. And it was ultimately, I think, kneecapped a little bit by that fact. But yeah, I still had fun with it. Like I don't know, for me, like nothing is better in a turn-based video game than the Pokemon battle system. It is just so innately satisfying. It's so flexible. It kind of just lets you really express your own specific play style. I'm super into, like, I'm not competitive, but I love like Pokemon Showdown so much, and so like even just like getting to play like Pokemon battles and then have a story as well, I'm just like, oh my god, I forgot how good this is, compared to just mindlessly mashing the random battle thing on Pokemon Showdown over and over again.
Yeah. So I think Josie, you put it right, and then Charlie, you echoed, and then I will continue to echo. The idea of like not meeting expectations. I always consider this game kind of a half step.
Yeah,
it is something new for the Pokemon series, the wild area, and the way that it approaches battles and story progression slightly differently than the other games, I think is interesting. And there are some other like sort of metagame things of the two versions have like a different gym leader, and so that's kind of like a new interesting thing for the series. But it doesn't do anything great. It does some things good. It does some things not so good.
I think
the wild area
gym battles.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah, because it's
gym
certainly
battles are really cool.
The gym battle theme is excellent. I love the gym battle theme from Sword and Shield. But the open world is not that good, and the story is actually pretty bad, and it's poorly paced. And I like the new Pokemon designs largely, and I like the towns sometimes. I actually think never mind. Let me check it. I think this game has the worst towns of any Pokemon game because they look big, but it's like 3 houses on like a linear path, and you can't even go into any of them. And you're like, oh.
Scarlet and Violet might take the cake for me. Those towns didn't even load.
That's fair, and we'll get there when we talk about 2022. But it's a game that it took important steps forward, but didn't land any of them. And something I think is very interesting about the legacy of this game is Dexit, and the idea of not bringing back every single Pokemon, which was eventually mostly remedied by the DLC. They added added back so many Pokemon through the 2 DLC expansions. But it's an interesting game that I have good memories with, and I completed the Pokedex because of course I'm a good little boy. I complete my Pokedexes in my games. But I don't have any particularly fond memories with it, except for like before it came out and like the first few days of playing it. Because also another thing with this game that wasn't as true with Sun and Moon is they did actually hide a lot of like the new Pokemon and stuff. And I remember one of the most magical moments for me as a Pokemon player was stumbling into that first route and seeing Nickit and like Orbeetle and like these new like early route Pokemon show up for the first time. And I'd never seen them before, and they were just walking around in the grass. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. I can go like touch it and like figure out what it is and like battle it and capture it and add it to my party. And that was a magic of like Pokemon Adventure, that because every other game before that had been just like random encounters in the grass and you can see them in the overworld. That's a little bit less special in my mind. And then in Let's Go, it was all Pokemon I'd seen before. Like, there's no new Pokemon. So Pokemon Sword definitely had those moments of like really cool, adventurous, fun things. But ultimately it's a very imbalanced adventure, especially like when you get to the end of it and like they wrap up the storyline like so quick, like, oh shit, we need to introduce a villain, we need to introduce like a major plot, and then Swordbert and Shieldbert, and they like mess up the final battle with the legendary. It's terrible. It's very, very bad. But that is the last major game for us to talk about, and now it is time for us to, because we're kind of going a little long here, quickly go through our friend coded segment. Charlie, do you have the Twitter responses up? Yes.
Sorry.
No. Maybe so. You're reading something.
I need to open Twitter.
Yeah, I've got some Discord ones that I can go through. We've got one from Regally, who says 2019 is one of my favorite years for Switch. It feels like a less is more kind of year for me. Kind of like the best of both worlds between 2017 and 2018. Not quite as much quantity, which I think actually going through today, Wrigley, I think you're probably just misremembering 2019, because I think actually there's a chance this might be the highest amount of games Nintendo has published in one year. But he says, but it makes up for that and then some with quality. It has 3 games for me that are some of my favorite games on the system, and define the years for me: Luigi Mansion 3, Link's Awakening, and Serpent. Whoa. excuse me, Luigi's Mansion 3, Link's Awakening, and Super Mario Maker 2. Regally, you would get along great with Josie Woah.
That's what I said. Totally agree.
He says, 2019 might be the best year overall for everyone as huge as 2017 or 2023, but it's one of the best years for me because it gave me 3 surprise all-time favorites I never expected to love as much as I do. So, yeah. I
totally agree.
We went through that, and it was actually kind of funny that you
said exactly the same thing, yeah.
Totally mirrored what Josie said. Then Adam Hurd says, Super Mario Maker 2 and Fire Emblem Three Houses both launched in 2019, and I think these two are two of my favorite Switch games. Wow. So I guess 2019 must be one of my favorite years of Switch, even if there's not much outside of that. He says Fire Emblem is one of my favorite houses. Fire Emblem is one of my favorite franchises, and Three Houses is arguably the strongest entry in that franchise. So that's something I'm still excited about replaying over and over even today. I think that's really, really special. If we remember back to the last mainline new Fire Emblem game before that, and they split that game into 3 games with 3 routes. This is 1 game with 4 routes. That's crazy. In 1 game, is you don't have to go buy 3 fucking copies, and one of which is going to cost you like $80 if you want to play all of them. It's very, very cool. Charlie, do you have the other ones pulled up?
I'm still working on pulling it up. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
For some reason, I just can't find it.
You know what?
Oh, jeez.
I got it. I keep.
I'm sorry.
I keep good track of my own tweets. Let's see. From Daniel, we say a standout game would probably be Pokemon Sword and Shield. I know they aren't the most loved, but it was cool to finally have that original Pokemon home console experience. As for disappointment, probably Super Mario Maker 2. Not a bad game at all, just very short-lived.
Yeah, valid.
Yeah, the short-lived aspect, I think, is the part of it that disappoints me. It's not a game I'm particularly into, but I wish that game, for its community and for what I think it would, I think it should have sold better, and I think it could bring a lot of community fun to Switch that some Switch games are kind of lacking. The fact that the community didn't glom onto it the way that they did with the first one just kind of makes like a missed opportunity. Because if this was still the Wii U, I mean, Wii U wasn't even around as long as it's been since since Mario Maker 2. But we would still be getting, like, if they had the energy, we'd still be getting, like, people talking about this game. And we just don't anymore, which I think is unfortunate. I think also is a part of it is Nintendo's, like, short tail for support for that game. I mean, I think it got, like, 1 year of post-launch updates.
Yeah.
But it should have gotten, like, 3. So that's really weird. Really, very weird. Friend of the show and guest of the show, Botox Games, says Daemon X Machina doesn't get the appreciation it deserves. Any thoughts on Daemon X Machina?
Absolutely not. Bo, come on,
Not
man.
into that game at all, man. It's too Gundam for me.
I played the demo of that game and I had a horrible time.
I also played the demo and I hated it. Yes, dude.
I was so excited. I was like, this is what we're publishing, Nintendo? Are we?
Yeah.
They didn't publish. They didn't publish Daemon X Machina, but
no.
Am I wrong about that?
I thought they did publish
Daemon X Machina. I think they just really supported
really marketed it.
They really liked it. If they didn't publish
Worldwide
it.
Marvelous, Worldwide Switch. Oh, yes, they did. My bad. It's also published by Marvelous because they published the PC version. Because that game actually came to. Wait, hold on. Is it maybe just co-published? Okay, I'm gonna have to look into this. It's confusing, but I think you're right. Actually, my bad. Technically a Nintendo game, but not a Nintendo game anymore. Did you guys know they're making a sequel to that game?
I saw that.
Daemon X Machina?
Yeah, it's called Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. And I don't talk about it much, but
there you go, Bo. You got.
He's very excited for it. He's very, very excited for it.
Oh God, I'm glad.
Abram says. Abram Buhner, friend of the show, roommate of myself, says, as I dive into my replay of the Bayonetta series. True, yes. As I dive into my replay of the Bayonetta series, I've been thinking back to Astral Chain. It came out during my first week of college, so I barely put any time to it. That's one I'd really like to have actually beat sometime soon. I love the relationship Nintendo and Platinum has built. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
A couple more.
Justin Smith Williams. Wait, do we get his yet?
No.
Okay, cool. Justin Smith Williams says 2019 was the year that cemented the Switch as Nintendo's best system / library for me. Getting Astral Chain, an exciting new IP, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Luigi's Mansion 3, and more all in one year was incredible, including third-party bangers like Dragon Quest XI and the impossible port The Witcher 3, which, that port is
crazy.
so impressive. I haven't played it, but I mean, everything I've seen of that is just like absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to say about Dragon Quest XI, Josie?
I'm not a Dragon Quest girl.
Yeah.
Builders looks cool. I think if I was into RPGs, I'd probably love it, but as I am not really a RPG girl either, I think it just kind of doesn't super work out. But like we mentioned OJ earlier, he also likes this game, so have him on at some point. he'll definitely talk about that
we
stuff.
could do like a video about like RPGs, like JRPGs on Switch. Maybe it'd be a good one to have for that. Think about that. We have Gags. I don't think I've ever seen this person before, but Gags says 2019 was an incredible back end year. I remember not getting much at first, but then the hits just kept on coming. Three Houses started off the crazy run. Astral Chain was a banger. Link's Awakening, Dragon Quest XI, Luigi Mansion 3, and Pokemon. Daemon Machina was my disappointment. So we've got an opposing view there. But yeah, what's interesting, I'd be interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this, is that like 4-month period nearing the end of the year for 2019 where like games were like stumbling over each other to come out. I believe Daemon X Machina was like 1 week before Link's Awakening, and that was like 2 weeks after Luigi Mansion 3, and then like 2 weeks after that, you have Pokemon Sword and Shield, and somewhere in there was Ring Fit Adventure, and like and a game I didn't even mention. But the last game of the year was not published in America, but the Dr. Kawashima's Brain Chaining for Nintendo Switch. Like they just went sicko mode for like the end of this year, just like just put them all out, and the game just kind of like stumbled to come out.
Yeah, that's such a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I just remember being very excited, and also like I think that's probably what happened with me with Luigi's Mansion 3. I was like, well, I'll just play it later. And then also I think Daemon X Machina, had it come out at maybe a dry spell in the Switch, maybe I would have given it more of a chance. But I think since I was like also super looking forward to Link's Awakening, when that came out, and it just like the fact that it was around all of that, I was like, absolutely hell no. It's also $60, so that was also why.
Yeah. The last one here comes from our friend Scruffy, Joe Richards, who's currently at Gamescom. Scruffy, have fun there. Shit. I don't know if you're watching this, but enjoy Gamescom. He says, I kind of forgot how busy 2019 actually was. Outside of Luigi Mansion 3, there was Tetris 99, Astral Chain, Link's Awakening that immediately spring to mind. Dragon Quest XI is probably the biggest standout game for me with how immense that port actually is. And yeah, what's interesting about Dragon Quest XI is I got that game at launch. I played a little bit of it, but Josie, you and I are kindred spirits. I'm not a big RPG guy.
Me neither.
I play the occasional one. I like my Final Fantasy. I like my Xenoblade, but they're few and far between for me. Nintendo published that game. I didn't talk about it today because I wanted to focus on the like first party stuff. But Nintendo published that game, and they published the better version of that game that came out like a year and a half before and everywhere else. But then they reported Dragon Quest XI S to other systems because the Switch version was just so much better than the other ones. Like there's like a whole weird thing going on with Dragon Quest XI. That makes it an interesting game to talk about, but not one I have any particular reverence for, except for that fucking song. You guys remember the fucking song that they played for every trailer? You mean
the Dragon Quest theme?
Well, they had this like specific arrangement for fucking Dragon Quest XI that like every trailer, and that game showed up so many times in directs and like
it really
fucking
did.
Gamescom
everywhere for
opening it live and stuff.
That's that's the speak no evil of video games right there.
Crazy pull. But the last thing I kind of want to just quickly over, we're running out of time here, but we got to give a shout out to the indies. Do you have any 2019 indie games that you love, Josie, that you want to talk about?
I don't think it counts as an indie, but Box Boy. But
sure.
Other than that, like, I don't know if there's anything that super jumps to mind. Mm-hmm. So I think if you guys start naming them, I'll probably be like, oh yeah, banger. But
feel free to jump in. I'm about to rattle through a few. One of my favorite games of all time, A Short Hike, came out in 2019. Oh. You like that game?
Yeah, that's a banger.
I thought that was a 2020 Switch game.
No.
Oh no,
that was October, November.
I forgot that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's such a good game.
Oh, I love that game so much. I think we actually talked about that game on the show a couple times.
That's a
It's
killer.
just
That's a
fantastic.
killer game. Yeah.
One of my favorite games of all time, Wilmot's Warehouse.
Hell yeah.
Came out that year. That's not a game I expect anyone else to know. But Sayonara Wild Hearts, also 2019. That's an
I gotta
amazing
play that.
game. Untitled Goose Game. Now there's a 2019
shout
game.
out. That game's so funny. I have yet to play it myself, but I think I watched like Markiplier play it or something.
Another great
So
donkey
funny.
video on
I bet.
on Goose Game.
Rake in the Lake.
Reagan Lake. Yeah, that's great video. Heave Ho. Have you ever played Heave Ho? No?
I think I have it on I think it was free on the Epic Game Store, or no, I think Amazon, back when Amazon was doing a thing where they were giving Prime members free games every month. Heave Ho I think was on there,
Yeah.
but I haven't played it.
Yeah, that's a fun game. Very, very goofy. Very Devolver. They have Devolver skins in there, which is kind of cool. You can play you can turn your guy into the fucking
The bullet guy.
the bullet guy, or the character from Greece, or the Gato Roboto character. They just do some weird shit.
Hell yeah. Gato Roboto I think came out in 2019.
It might have. I don't
Minute
have it on my
I think
list,
also might have hit Switch in 2019.
Yeah.
Minute's incredible. Slay the Spire, Risk of Rain 2, Baba Is You.
Baba Is You, great game. Very hard. That game makes me mad. I'm too stupid for Baba Is You. Very good game though.
Katana Zero?
I have. I love Katana Zero.
Not.
Very, very good.
Katana Zero, that is like a 4 or 5 hour long game at the most. I think I probably beat it in 2 or 3, but there's extra stuff that I didn't do. But that is a super, super short game that's incredible, and that was a game of the year contender for me in 2019 for sure.
Phenomenal game, yeah. My Friend Pedro. I love that game. My Friend Pedro is so good. The game's so goofy and ridiculous, and you're a murderer talking to a floating banana, but you know how it is. We're not going to let your floodgates open too big, Charlie, but What the Golf did also come out in 2019 on Nintendo Switch.
It hit Switch in 2020, I believe.
I'm so sorry. Superliminal also that year. I love Superliminal. Very, very interesting game. And Piku Niku. I like Piku Niku.
Piku Niku's
kind of a
fun. That's a cute
goofy
game.
little game.
I haven't played a ton of it, but
a whole slate of weird little indies came out that year that I think are absolutely fantastic. But that brings us to the end of this 2019 retrospective for Nintendo Switch. We talked about all the Nintendo games. We talked about the indie games. We talked about our favorites. We talked about some ones we didn't like so much. And that, again, brings us to the end. Josie, thank you very much for joining us here on the show. Do you want to wrap up with any final thoughts, or plug your shit? Because you certainly need our help with 18 times the subscribers.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was super fun. It's always cool to talk about and reminisce on the Switch and stuff. So I like the concept of the pod a lot. I also really like your guys' names. I feel like it's so clever. Nintendo Select is genius.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Tucker and Charlie. I was
No, shout out the names that your parents gave you. No, sorry. But yeah, thank you for having me on. If you like Nintendo Switch content, I do that, so you can check it out if you'd like to. But yeah, this was super cool. Thanks for the cold call email. That was funny.
Have you ever gotten a cold call be on my podcast email before? Invite?
Yeah, I get them from crypto bros a lot, actually.
Oh Christ!
Oh God!
And please tell me you've never accepted any of those.
I just don't respond.
Okay, good.
Ever.
I'm slightly less creepy than those guys.
Exactly.
I like Animal Crossing, and which I'm sure they don't. So that gives me one up.
For sure. But yeah.
But I will link Josie's channel in the description if any of you want to say it. Charlie, your first week in Japan, first time us recording technically on different days, because it's almost 11 or almost noon for you.
Thursday here, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I don't even know what day it is, dog. I was up super late last night. Yeah, first week in Japan. It's going all right.
How long are you there?
3 months.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You have a job out there? What are you doing?
So my gig is I'm a journalist. So I write for IGN and CNN and a couple other places. And so just doing freelance work while I'm out here and just kind of hanging out. I also write about food and drink and stuff like that. So I'm kind of just I'm working on covering regional food, working on a book proposal, just a ton of stuff. Yeah, just eating my way around. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Are you coming back for TGA?
Yeah, I'll be back in the States around Game Awards at the very latest.
Yeah. So you're going from Gamescom to your trip is bookended by Jeff Keighley showcases.
You're right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be back like way sooner, like mid-November.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Still 3 months, very long time, and that will mean that the podcast, we're going to try our best, but it might be a little bit harder to schedule given the time zone differences and stuff. But thank you everyone for listening. Again, check out Josie's channel if you're from Josie's channel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stick around for more retrospectives like this. We do eventually want to do one for every single year. If you like this video and you want to hear us talk about 2018, you can go listen to our conversation with John Cartwright from Good Vibes Gaming. We really went in depth on 2018. Similar length podcast, but a lot less to talk about. But John Cartwright is just such a goddamn nerd that we just kept talking. And if you, we also have one for 2017 with Andres Restart. We've got episode with Kevin Kenson. We've done with Botox Games. Like if you like just nerdy assholes like us, and of course, I mean this is a compliment, Josie, but you are one of our nerdy asshole friends. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I hope you stick around for more in the future. Thank you very much for watching.